Hey traders, checking in on the stock market today. FOMC reaction was a big help to the bulls. They certainly needed it. We're going to compare it to the last time around, look for similarities, any differences, and what we can expect in the short term. More proving is needed, but it's a good start. All right, so here was the reaction to the FOMC. Initially bullish, then we had a 5-minute downtrend, and then as Powell started the conference, we had a massive bull move to the upside. Very little consolidation along the way, and that was a scenario of bears getting punched in the mouth. I talk about that many times where you have a trend that is consistent time and time again, and then you just see it completely reverse as the scales tilt, and in this instance, it was an FOMC reaction that then had a massive move off of the low. So it's very similar to how last FOMC shaped up. Now we have to see if it continues. So as I've said, the initial reaction is not as important to me as the reaction in the following days. So this is a reaction where the bulls punch the bears in the mouth, absolutely, but we're going to be seeing over the next 2 days, tomorrow and Friday, as we close out the week, how do bears respond to that? Do bulls consistently keep buying? Do bears consistently keep getting run over? Or do we see temporary top set? So I'm looking at the S&P 500 here, and we have a very clear resistance level. Look at this top here. It's now a triple top of resistance. This is the 12-hour time frame. If we were to reject from this level, that would tell us this time is different than last time, because if we look at the last time around, we had the reaction to the FOMC, and then it was green, green. We had a higher low every single day pattern from there. So essentially what we saw in the 5-minute time frame today in reaction to the FOMC, last time around, that happened on the daily time frame, where the bears just got steamrolled after being overconfident and having complete control. They got run over. And so we're watching now to see how many bears can be put underwater, essentially. If we reject from this resistance level, the only hope for the bulls from there in the short term would be an inverse head and shoulders, which would be possible. But again, that would tell us, okay, this time's different. And I'm certainly not expecting things to play out the same way as they did last time. So far, they're very similar. There's no doubt about that. But a lot of proving from the bulls needed. And if I'm a bull, I would rather have daily trend changes take place to have confidence that the move can stick. Because one of the reasons, in my opinion, that we gave back all of that last move, which I was not expecting. I was expecting a weekly higher low, but we gave it all back. And that was because, in my opinion, we didn't establish much support on the way up. So if I'm a bull and I want a bottom to be set, I want a fear low to be set, I want markets to start to shift a little bit and the environment to shift, I want to see higher lows and higher highs in a clear daily uptrend. But for now, the rest of the week, we've got a very clear triple top of resistance, and that level is going to be in play tomorrow. The NASDAQ, it's not as clear of a triple top, but it's very similar. We're right there, and that is our resistance. And if we were to reject the 12-hour time frame, it is a potential inverse head and shoulders type setup. And again, looking at the last time around, bold reaction to the FOMC, and then a higher low every single day on the way up until we topped out. So a key resistance in play. Checking in on QQQ. So when I look at this, is this a daily uptrend? You may be asking. Is this enough of a pivot, a little higher low and a higher high for a trend change? Because of the prevailing action and the complete bear control, that's not enough for me to call it a clear daily uptrend. So I go to the 2-day time frame. I say, okay, I need a 2-day trend change to the bulls. When's the last time we've seen a 2-day time frame, higher low and higher high? Your answer is not since the all-time highs. Every single bounce has failed this time frame. And again, it's just condensing things down a little bit, but that would be something that would be notable. If we could see bounce follow through and then confirm a trend change on this time frame, we would say, hey, that's the first time. And again, as I've said in the past, you want to find scenarios where you can make clear statements. This has not happened in this amount of time. And ideally, it's a significant amount of time so we can see when a shifting market environment is taking place. So if QQQ, again, these are a bunch of ifs because we're looking forward here in terms of we now have a 2-hour-old reaction. Can that 2 hours translate into multiple days or multiple weeks of a shift? And for me, a break, I should say a confirmed trend change on the 2-day time frame, I would look at that and say, well, that's different. That's the first and most significant amount of follow through that we've seen since the all-time highs. And just comparing with SPY, 2-day time frame, no uptrend here since all-time highs either. One thing is going to be very important for me with both of these names, QQQ and SPY, is Apple. Why is Apple so important? Because Apple right now has a base of support, and we can make a very simple statement. If Apple holds the low of consolidation right now of 150, and again, the S&P 500 dropped to a lower low, QQQ dropped to a lower low, granted they didn't have any follow through. If Apple holds this low, in my opinion, knowing the importance of Apple and QQQ and SPY, the broader market is A-OK just fine. If this level breaks, it's another big tally in favor of the bears and a big uh-oh. This is a notable shift. But for right now, this monthly chart on Apple is extremely strong still. That can change, and we're watching for it to potentially change. But we are testing daily lower high resistance. We broke it. Granted, no follow through at this point in time. If we confirm a daily trend change from here on Apple, that's going to increase confidence in this 150 and 153's little double bottom. We got a support zone between 150 and 154 here with a bunch of touches. And again, with the importance of Apple and with the fact that Amazon has collapsed on earnings and Netflix collapsed on earnings and Facebook collapsed on earnings. Microsoft did not. Microsoft is still holding on, not as strong, but better. Apple's really trying to hold it together. So I'm watching that very closely. 150 on Apple is a very important level for me. SMH, semiconductors. So little daily higher low and higher high. You can consider that a trend change. It's a fairly clear pivot. AMD, how about the volatility on AMD today? Gap up on bullish earnings reactions. We dropped 6.5% and we bounce over 8%. Massive volatility in both directions. So AMD getting bull follow through, of course, thanks to the FOMC reaction and VDA clearing recent highs. Let's go back to QQQ divided by SPY. I've been talking about the importance for me, and again, this ties into Apple holding that level, but the importance for me of QQQ leading the way up. So we started the morning with QQQ weaker than SPY and our other sectors, and the bull move at the end of the day on the FOMC reaction was led by QQQ. So we have a triple bottom down here and a little quadruple top. And so again, just like last time, are we going to lead on the bounce? That has to happen this time as well if we're going to have bull confidence. But paying attention for sure on QQQ trying to lead this bounce. So SMH, daily trend change, we can say it's confirmed. So now we zoom out, and what are we looking for? We're looking at weekly resistances. We've got 253.27, we've got 284.42 as a couple key resistance levels, big picture. We know if we're going to see a momentum shift back to the bulls big picture, we need to confirm a weekly uptrend. Bulls have proven to do one time frame at a time. We proved it on the daily. Now we zoom out and have to prove it on the weekly. We're in a market environment right now where bulls that didn't want to play the FOMC, there's nothing wrong with that in terms of the volatility. And there was, as I mentioned during a live stream today to our members, I didn't play FOMC reactions for probably my first 8 years of trading. And it was just not what I was looking for in a trading environment. And I got more comfortable with scalp trading and 1 and 2 minute time frames, and I started trading it a little bit more. But it's never a big day for me. I'm always, just treating it like any other day, and I'll use smaller position sizes to adjust for the increased volatility because it's just not my style as a trader, reacting to news and having, that much focus on a singular fundamental event. But my point is, if you're looking bull at this point, we got a whole bunch of space for hourly higher lows to form next time we consolidate. So a patient bull is going to be looking for hourly higher low entries. An even more patient bull, we'll get to Tesla in just a second, but an even more patient bull is going to wait for the daily. They're looking at this SPY bounce and saying, okay, great, now I'm interested. That's a big enough bounce to get my attention, but I'm not going to make an entry until we see daily consolidation. Then I'll make a swing trade entry. knowing that the bulls have to prove the weekly trend or the daily trend change to me if we're going to see follow through. And patient bulls were really feeling the FOMO last time around, but that's what a patient bull is waiting for. Determine your, number one, what direction you want to be looking, and number two, do you want to be patient or aggressive? An aggressive bear is playing this triple top fishing play and is going to be looking for an entry tomorrow. An aggressive bull is entering on hourly consolidation on names that have tons of space for an hourly high or low. A patient bull is waiting for daily pullbacks. Even though we could bounce another couple of days. They're just waiting and saying, nope, it's not the setup that I want. If I'm looking for a swing trade entry, I'm waiting for daily consolidation. So again, determine your game plans in advance and determine what you're looking for. Tesla had this 4-hour equilibrium that we were looking at. We started the morning bearish, setting a 4-hour lower high and pulling back. We set a higher low compared to 844. So I'm viewing this as the low, higher the bounce, higher low, lower high. Set the higher low at the low of today, and then the bull break on the FOMC reaction. So a tightening range over the last 4 days broke bull. Can you consider this a daily trend change? Again, that's up to you as the individual technical analyst. You could sit down someone that says yes, you could sit down someone that says no, and I wouldn't argue with either of them. I like the clarity of the 2-week time frame. I'm viewing this as a high, low, lower high, and now trying for the higher low. And big picture, Tesla is still holding on well overall. We're still in a monthly uptrend. Essentially, we would have to lose $700 for Tesla bulls to say, uh-oh. We've got Apple's uh-oh level for bulls, 150. We've got Tesla's uh-oh level for bulls, that's 700. And watching for the potential of a tightening 2-week range. Healthcare, solid bounce. Is this a daily trend change? Not enough of a pivot for me. If there's a lack of clarity, I zoom out the 2-day time frame. I can see that we have a ton of space for a 2-day lower high to be the result of this bounce, or you could use the weekly. We're just going to be looking for a weekly lower high to be the result of the next bounce as well. But bulls definitely benefiting from the move today. And we are still in a weekly uptrend. Well, I'll take that back. Not a clear weekly uptrend. We are looking for a weekly higher low compared to 123.67 and our recent support level up at 127.07. But again, we will then be scouting a weekly lower high. But it's stronger than many other names because we are not in a weekly downtrend and we have not lost the recent weekly lows from February. Financial sector, big time bounce. Lead bull sector yesterday, another one today. So again, wherever this move tops out, we will have to confirm a daily trend change. We've seen big bounces before that failed to confirm the daily trend change. If we confirm a daily trend change, we zoom out and the weekly lower highs will be our guide. Clear weekly lower highs, lots of space for them to form, but a solid bull day. And again, good amount of space is being created. And if I want to compare it to the other time, well, we had a big bounce that saw zero follow through. What was the percentage gain on that bounce? 4.5%. So I can say, all right, at this point, it's already 6.5. We've got more space to work with. The probability that you can set a daily high or low after a 4.5% move is smaller than the probability that you can set a daily high or low after a 6.5% move. So just comparing to previous price history, comparing to previous bounces and different examples, and we can say this is the best chance. Well, this is a pretty good chance, but this is the best chance that we've seen since the end of March for the bull to try and shape up a daily trend change in their favor in the financial sector. IWM, significant bounce. We will need a daily trend change here as well. We can draw a downtrending support line. Now that we have this bounce here, we can draw a downtrending resistance line. Let's see if this one, it's a pretty good, just a rough visual guide. But in the end, it will boil down to can bulls confirm a daily trend change once this move tops out. We've got a clear weekly lower high to be keeping an eye on at 204.80. A lot of people talking about the size of bounces that you see in bear markets. And that's definitely true. In bear markets, you see big time bounces. The 3-week bounce that we had was massive with double-digit percentage gains that then resulted in a lower low. So the size of bounces alone are not enough for us to say, oh, bulls are back in control, which is where the trends come into play for me as far as proving follow through. Because again, it's just always a balancing act with the scales. And demand, I should say supply has been outweighing demand significantly for 2022 as far as, just keep it simple, shares, supply and demand of shares. When demand is exceeding supply, price goes up. When supply is exceeding demand, price goes down. So supply has been exceeding demand all of the year. And you see periods where the scales tilt real quick and then they go right back to where they were, which is what happened on that 3-week bounce. We never changed the daily trend in any convincing way on QQQ and many other sectors. And even really SPY, nothing convincing. So that was a period where the scales were tilted with supply exceeding demand. They tilted back. There was a snapback on the last FOMC reaction, but then they just did this again. So what has to happen is they're flipped now. Demand is exceeding supply the last couple of days on this bounce. The scales will do this once daily consolidation starts after this bounce, and then it needs to go right back to demand exceeding supply again. And that's how you confirm a trend change, because bulls buy the dip. Any shorts that entered are forced to cover when the trend change is confirmed. So that is key. Trends are key. They've got to change. Biotech sector held the low and turned around for a solid bounce. I don't consider that a trend change personally. Again, 2-day time frame, just starting to get a little 2-day bounce underway. A lot of space for a weekly lower high to form, anything under 97.19 as a result of this bounce. So still a lot of proving to be done. And look how long we've been in a weekly downtrend here. When's the last time XBI has set a weekly higher low and higher high? The answer is it has not happened since all-time highs, which were over a year ago, 13 months, where every bounce has failed to result in that higher low and higher high. So every time the scales tilt and demand exceeds supply, it always goes back. It never goes back and then stays with demand exceeding supply. And with this current bounce, we will just be looking for a lower high. We'll be watching retracement. Is it a bear flag with a weak bounce? Is it a big bounce that creates the space for the trend change attempt? But this is a clear, simple statement. It will be very notable to me when XBI confirms its first weekly uptrend in the last 13 months or however long it's been. And right on that note, the cannabis sector is the same. So CGC has been seeing a very significant bounce and was helped further today. And you scroll back and say, wow, that is a massive downtrend. But you zoom in, and that's a 30% bounce in 6 trading days. And that's an important point to note. Data can be skewed to fit individuals' narratives. I can go on Twitter right now and post CGC is averaging 5% a day for the last 6 days of trading. What a bull. But I could then pull out some longer term zoomed out data and say CGC is down X% in the last 12 months. And those are completely different stories and they're both completely true. So just be aware that you can always see something different based on how you skew data. And charts are the same. So you have to be careful of your own bias as well as bias of individuals of social media people as well. So for CGC, a weekly bounce is underway. We don't have a clear daily trend change yet, but this is another one similar to the biotech sector where we have not confirmed a weekly trend change to the bulls since we topped out same time. And it's not surprising it's doing the same thing because the biotech sector is part of growth names as far as how it trades, and so is the cannabis space. So I made a recent, I guess that was today. Today I talked to members during a live stream, and my main point was when I made my video, Dan's plan when it hits the fan, talking about crashes and game plans, the market was at all-time highs. Everything was perfect for bulls. 3 months later, we got the CVID dump. And I was prepared because I was looking in the opposing direction when sentiment was at all-time highs. Sentiment for cannabis is at all-time lows. Have a game plan. If you're interested in this sector, have a game plan of what will lead for you to establish a position. because I know people are going to be asking me when we are 50%, 100% off of the lows, and social media is now hyped up about the sector. Whenever that happens, whether it's 2 months from now or 2 years from now, it will happen. I'm extremely positive of that. People will be asking me about bull entries because they'll be feeling the FOMO way after it was time to make bull entries. So establish your game plan now when sentiment is absolutely crushed. It doesn't mean you have to enter now. It means establish clear criteria of what would have you interested in this sector. So CGC has been a lead bull. I'm keeping an eye on TLRY because it is lagging. 478 and 481 is currently a double bottom. And if we see a bull break of 540, it's a short-term bull break that would then have TLRY following along with CGC. And CGC is the clear lead bull. No other individual names in the Canadian MJ sector have been this strong over the last 5 days. US MJ is even weaker. This is where the majority of the despair is. MSOS, I mean, look at this monthly chart. And this is where fundamental traders are pulling their hair out because the fundamentals have only been improving as far as these companies are concerned. But the price, it doesn't matter because no one's interested and there is still gridlock and there is still hurdles and federally illegal and all that stuff. So we don't have any kind of catalyst, but those catalysts will come. This sector will reverse and these names will be 100% off the low. And then people will be asking me about bullish entries. I made an MSOS entry today, and it was just me saying, all right, we've got the absolute most extreme bearish sentiment that I've seen, plus an extremely bullish reaction to the FOMC. That's good enough for me to make an attempt. So enter at 1470, stop under the low, and that's just, honestly, it's a why not? I haven't made a bull attempt in this sector in a couple of months, maybe a month and a half, whatever. All right, give it a try. Clearly established game plan. I know worst case scenario what I will lose and just giving it a shot. But otherwise, I will be waiting for trend changes to prove follow through to me in this sector and just waiting because, again, I keep saying it and I know that I just want you to realize that it's big picture where I am so confident that I'm going to make a bunch of money in this sector when the timing is right. I don't know when the timing is going to be right, but I'm not going to fall asleep on this sector because it will rally 100% plus. I mean, the same thing happened where at the bottom of the CVID, this is TCNNF, one of the major players, at the bottom of we were weak in this sector. And we were off 50% plus from the all-time high. And then CVID hit, and we got crushed because the broader market took an already weak sector and smashed it on the rocks. And we are seeing the same thing now. We were already way weaker than the broader market, and the broader market drop is making it absolutely extreme. And so when the broader market finds some confidence, I mean, the amount of times we've seen 100% bounce, 1,000% bounce. 100% bounce will be easy when the sentiment shifts, but we're patiently watching for it. So again, this is not saying now's the time to buy. This is me saying establish a game plan. Don't fall asleep on this sector. It's definitely a little niche sector and plenty of traders are going to ignore it and that's completely fine. But it's my bread and butter, my entire trading career, and it will be again. It hasn't been for many years, maybe a couple years, but it will be again. I am certain. Baba. So keeping an eye on these Chinese names. And I mentioned Tesla and NIO had the same 4-hour bull break here. And why I'm interested in NIO is looking for this weekly higher low to shape up because that's the most likely scenario for me due to the size of the volatility of this move. Big bounce, big pullback. We scout the higher low, then we scout the lower high for a tightening range on the weekly. Baba already set this weekly higher low, so did Baidu. So I'm watching for NIO to follow. NIO broke a 4-hour equilibrium bullish today by getting over 8, make that 1784. That increases the probability for me that a weekly higher low is shaping up. So now I look on the daily. Now we have a daily resistance here, 1819. Little double top with today. If we get over that level, weekly higher low continues to shape up. So I'm just keeping an eye. If the sentiment continues for the bulls on this FOMC reaction, NIO is a name that I am interested in because of its weekly setup and because what some of its Chinese peers have been doing. Crypto saw a bull move today. So Bitcoin 12-hour falling wedge. We've been watching this for 6 days. Finally broke bull. So everything went bull today as the dollar saw weakness. The dollar saw its first notable red day and its most bearish day in over a month. Granted, it still has daily EMA 12 support. It's still a strong daily uptrend, but this is finally the first sign of any kind of pullback in the last 2 weeks. So with the dollar drop, commodities seeing a bull move, stocks, crypto, all seeing a bull move. So if I'm bullish in any of those sectors, which pretty much means if I'm a bull in almost anything, I really want to see the dollar top out. And I would need another red day tomorrow to be creating space for a daily lower high to be the result of the next bounce. If we hold daily EMA 12, we can see continuation. So keep an eye on the dollar because it is pretty critical in my opinion in terms of just another piece of the puzzle. Do I trust this bull move? If the dollar continues seeing sustained weakness, then it's much easier to trust a bull move than if the dollar is still holding daily EMA 12 and keeping strong. Gold had a 4-hour equilibrium break bull today. So first 4-hour uptrend since this weakness started a couple weeks ago. So daily bounce underway, but anything under 1920 is just a daily lower high. Bulls have to confirm a trend change back in their favor for any kind of shift in momentum that is notable. We are scouting a monthly high or low, and there's monthly EMA 12, but daily trend change back to the bulls is just the first baby step of a monthly high or low trying to form. And silver has been weaker, but it too is seeing a daily bounce, must confirm daily trend changes. At this point, it's just an oversold bounce. Miners are leading the way. Key resistance, daily lower high, 3609 is in play. And like many names, we've then got space for the weekly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. So tons of proving to be done if we're going to see any notable longer term shift. And that's essentially the same thing. Tons of proving for dollar bears if we're going to see any notable longer term shift. CCJ uranium earnings tomorrow. So that'll be key. It has space for a weekly lower high next bounce. Oil is on the verge of a bull break. We broke one little level of 108. 109.20 matters more to me. We are much closer to a bull break than a bear break. This is the 3-day time frame, condensing things down. So all about 109.20. If we reject, we remain within the tightening range. But much closer to a bull break than a bear break. Prevailing trend. Natural gas bull break. Very impressive double top. We set a 4-hour high or low after the double top rejection and then broke out. Now we got a little triple top in the 834s, but still very strong on the hourly and 4-hour. So natural gas is back to 14-year highs or whatever it is, which is making the energy sector extremely strong, back at all-time highs. And if oil breaks this equilibrium bullish, XLE will continue that notable strength. Right now, it's one of our lead bull sectors. Utilities bounced. First daily oversold conditions. We got right down to 31 RSI or so at the low of that candle from Monday. So back burner bounce. Weekly high or low trying to shape up. That's a lot. It's a long video. Proving needs to be done on the longer term time frames. Apple 150 is key. Tesla 700 is key. Determine the names that you care about and determine clear statements that are immune to emotional opinions and biases. Biases. Cannabis sector has not seen a weekly uptrend in many months. Neither has XBI. That has to happen if some longer term momentum is going to shift. And we have a ton of space for weekly lower highs to be the result of the current bounce. We know it's not going to happen quickly. Changing long-term, prolonged trends takes a long time because you got to do one time frame at a time. All right. That's it. I'm going to be doing a live pregame stream tomorrow. Lori is still away. Jason's been covering the last 3 days. I'm going to cover tomorrow and Friday. and that'll be live public. So if you want to tune in, it'll be on this YouTube channel, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. See you then. Do good things. 30 minutes. Too long.